Tom Harrison thought his biggest problem that Tuesday morning was fixing the malfunctioning air recycling unit in his workshop. The device sparked and wheezed like an old man climbing stairs. He'd been nursing it along for weeks with spare parts and engineering prayers. His modest apartment above the repair shop served as both home and office. A comfortable bachelor setup that worked perfectly for a simple life maintaining Earth's growing fleet of interstellar communication arrays. The last thing he expected was his stepsister Kira bursting through his front door at 7 in the morning, dragging behind her the most stunning woman he'd ever seen. "Tom, I need a huge favor," Kira announced, her dark hair disheveled and her xenobiologist uniform wrinkled like she'd slept in it. "This is Zephora. She needs a place to stay for a while." Tom nearly dropped his coffee mug. The woman beside Kira stood nearly 6 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer between deep purple and midnight blue, depending on the light. Her hair cascaded in silver waves down her back, and her eyes glowed like captured starlight. She wore form-fitting clothes that looked both practical and elegant, made from materials Tom didn't recognize. "Hello, Tom Harrison," Zephora said, her voice carrying a musical quality that made his name sound like poetry. "Your sister speaks of you often," Stepsister Tom corrected automatically, then felt foolish. "I mean, nice to meet you. You're Valerian, right?" "Kira mentioned her research team was working with some of your people." Zephora nodded gracefully. "I am indeed Valerian. Kira has been most kind in showing me human customs, though I fear I still have much to learn." Kira shot Tom a look that clearly said, "Please don't ask questions right now," aloud. She said, "Zephora just needs somewhere safe to stay while we sort out some diplomatic paperwork. You know how bureaucracy works with first contact protocols?" Tom studied his stepsister's face. They'd been family for over 20 years, since their parents married when they were kids, and he could read her expressions like engineering schematics. She was scared, trying to hide it behind professional calm, but definitely scared. "Of course she can stay," Tom said immediately. "I've got a spare room, though it's not much. It's mostly storage and my old drafting table." "Actually," Zephora interrupted, her luminous eyes fixing on his, "if I may be direct, I would prefer to share your sleeping quarters." Tom's coffee mug slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers. He managed to catch it halfway to the floor, splashing hot liquid across his shirt. "I'm sorry, what?" "Among my people, protection bonds are sealed through proximity during vulnerable hours," Zephora explained matter-of-factly. "If I am to accept sanctuary in your dwelling, our energies must align through shared space. It is both custom and necessity." "She means she needs to sleep in the same room," Kira translated, though her cheeks had turned pink. "Valerian pack dynamics are complex. It's not what you're thinking, Tom." Tom looked between the two women, noting how Zephora's expression remained serene while Kira fidgeted with her research tablet. Something wasn't adding up, but his stepsister clearly needed his help. "My bedroom it is, then," he said, trying to sound casual. "I can take the couch." "No," Zephora said firmly. "The bond requires we share the same sleeping space. I will not displace you from your territory." Tom felt heat creep up his neck. "Territory? Your bed is the center of your personal domain," Zephora continued, seemingly oblivious to his discomfort. "To claim it fully would be presumptuous. We will share it as equals." Kira cleared her throat loudly. "Maybe I should explain more about Valerian customs later. Right now, I need to get back to the lab. Political tensions are running high, and there are some people who don't want this diplomatic exchange to succeed." She hugged Tom quickly. "Thanks, big brother. I owe you." After Kira left, Tom found himself alone with an alien woman who apparently intended to share his bed. He'd handled complex engineering problems, managed difficult clients, and once jury-rigged a life support system during a transport emergency, but this situation left him completely out of his depth. "Would you like to see the apartment?" he offered, desperately needing something normal to do. Zephora nodded and followed him on a brief tour. The living space was comfortable but modest, a kitchen that doubled as a dining area, a living room filled with technical manuals and half-finished projects, his bedroom with its queen-sized bed, and the small spare room he'd offered earlier. "Your dwelling reflects efficiency and creativity," Zephora observed, running her fingers along his workbench. You solve problems with available resources rather than ideal materials. That's engineering, Tom agreed, pleased that she understood. Make it work with what you have. This trait is highly valued among Valerians, she said, turning to face him. It suggests intelligence and adaptability. Something in her tone made Tom look at her more carefully. Zephora, are you really just here for diplomatic paperwork? She was quiet for a long moment, her luminous eyes studying his face. You are perceptive. No. The situation is more complex than your sister indicated. There are those among both our peoples who oppose closer relations between humans and Valerians. Some have made their displeasure known through threats. What kind of threats? The kind that require me to accept protection from Earth's security forces while maintaining my diplomatic immunity? Your sister offered an alternative. Safe house with someone trustworthy, who exists outside official channels. Tom felt a chill that had nothing to do with the apartment's temperature. Someone's trying to hurt you, or use me to damage relations. Between our species, Zephora confirmed. My presence here endangers you, Tom Harrison. I should not have accepted Kira's offer. Before she could continue, Tom stepped closer. Hey, no. If you're in danger, then you stay. That's not negotiable. He surprised himself with the vehemence in his voice. Zephyr's eyes widened slightly. You would protect someone you'd barely. No. You're important to Kira, which makes you important to me, Tom said simply. Besides, I don't like bullies, whether they're human or alien. Something shifted in Zephyr's expression, a warmth that seemed to make her skin shimmer brighter. This protective instinct, it is also highly valued among my people. They stood there for a moment, neither moving. Kata became acutely aware of everything about her, the way she held herself with unconscious grace, the subtle scent like ozone and exotic flowers that surrounded her, the way her eyes seemed to hold depths like looking into space itself. I should warn you, Zephora said softly. Valerian bonding customs can be intense for humans. Proximity creates certain physiological responses. What kind of responses? Tom asked, though he suspected he was already experiencing them. Heart had been beating faster since she'd walked through his door, enhanced emotional connection, increased protective instincts, physical attraction that transcends species barriers. Her gaze dropped to his lips for just a moment before returning to his eyes. The effects are usually mutual. Tom swallowed hard. Usually. In cases where genetic compatibility exists, she explained, which is rarer than most humans realize, but not impossible. The implications hung in the air between them like a charged particle field. Tom found himself stepping closer, without conscious thought, drawn by something that felt bigger than mere attraction. Zephora, he began, not sure what he intended to say. She raised one elegant hand, her fingers hovering just inches from his cheek without quite touching. We should proceed carefully, Tom Harrison. The bonds my people form are not easily broken. What if I don't want them to be broken? The words escaped before he could stop them. Her smile was radiant enough to power his workshop for a week. Then we have much to discover about each other. That evening, Tom lay in his own bed staring at the ceiling while Zephora performed what she called evening preparations in his bathroom. The reality of sharing sleeping space with an alien woman whose very presence seemed to rewire his nervous system was both terrifying and exhilarating. When she emerged wearing what appeared to be a sleeping garment made of the same shimmering material as her day clothes, Tom had to remind himself to breathe. The outfit was modest by human standards, but seemed designed to complement every curve of her tall, elegant frame. Is there a particular side of the bed you prefer? She asked, with apparent casualness. Either's fine, Tom managed, sliding over, to make room. She settled beside him with fluid grace, and immediately Tom felt that strange energy he'd noticed earlier intensify. It was like being near a powerful but perfectly controlled electrical field, warm and inviting rather than dangerous. Tom, she said quietly in the darkness, thank you for offering sanctuary. Among my people, such generosity creates bonds of honor that last lifetimes. Among my people, we just call it doing the right thing, he replied. He felt rather than saw her smile. This is why humans fascinate us. You make extraordinary acts. Seem ordinary, They lay in comfortable silence for a while, though Tom was intensely aware of every breath she took, every small movement she made. Despite the strangeness of the situation, he felt more relaxed than he had in months. Zephyr. Tomorrow, when Kira comes back, will you tell me what's really going on? She was quiet for so long he thought she might have fallen asleep. Finally, she spoke. Yes, and Tom, you may find that protecting me requires more than sanctuary. Do you mean she had already drifted off to sleep, leaving Tom to wonder what he'd gotten himself into, and why the prospect of danger seemed less important than the warm presence beside him? Tom woke to the smell of something that definitely wasn't coffee brewing in his kitchen. Sunlight streamed through his bedroom window, and for a disorienting moment, he couldn't remember why his bed felt warmer than usual. Then he turned his head and saw Zephyr's silver hair spread across the pillow beside him, her face peaceful. In sleep, the events of the previous day came flooding back. The alien woman who'd claimed his bed as bonding ground, the mysterious diplomatic troubles, the strange attraction that seemed to grow stronger every moment they spent together. In daylight, it all seemed impossible, like something from the science fiction novels he'd loved as a kid. Zephyr's eyes opened, those luminous orbs focusing on his face with startling intensity. Good morning, Tom Harrison. I hope my presence did not disturb your rest. Actually, I slept better than I have in months, Tom admitted, then felt heat creep up his neck at the implication. Her smile was radiant. The bonding process enhances rest quality. Your energy patterns complement mine harmoniously. Tom sat up, running a hand through his hair. About that, the bonding thing. What exactly does it mean? Before Zephora could answer, his front door chimed. She immediately tensed, her entire demeanor shifting from relaxed to alert warrior in the space of a heartbeat. Stay here, she whispered, her voice carrying an authority that made him want to obey without question. But Tom was already moving toward the living room. It's probably just Kira. She has her own key, but she's polite enough to announce herself. He checked the security monitor and confirmed his stepsister stood outside, but something was wrong. Kira kept glancing over her shoulder, and her usual confident posture looked forced. She's frightened, Zephora observed, having moved up behind him with silent grace. And she is not alone. Tom looked more carefully at the monitor and spotted movement in the hallway shadows. Someone's with her, not with her, Zephora corrected grimly, following her. Moved to his closet and pulled out what looked like a simple metallic bracelet from her belongings. The moment she put it on, the bracelet expanded into armor that covered her entire arm and overlapping plates of some unknown material. Zephora, what the hell is that? Emergency protection, she said, already moving toward his workshop. Tom, I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that? He looked at this woman who'd entered his life less than 24 hours ago, who'd turned his simple existence upside down, who made him feel things he'd never experienced before. Yes, then help me turn your apartment into a fortress. Next hour passed in a blur of activity that felt like controlled chaos. Zephyr's knowledge of defensive tactics combined with Tom's engineering skills and intimate knowledge of his building's systems created something remarkable. They rerouted power conduits to create electromagnetic barriers, turned his maintenance robots into surveillance drones, and transformed his workshop tools into improvised weapons. Your species' adaptability is remarkable, Zephora commented. As Tom finished calibrating a force field generator he'd jury-rigged from spare parts. Most beings would panic when faced with unknown technology. Most beings don't spend their lives making broken things work, Tom replied, testing the field. Strength. Besides, panic doesn't solve problems. The door chimed again, this time with Kira's emergency code. Tom opened it to find his stepsister looking haggard and worried, her research uniform torn at the shoulder. Tom, we have a problem, she said, pushing inside and immediately spotting Zephyr's armor. It's worse than I thought. What's worse? Tom demanded. Kira collapsed into his desk chair, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. Zephora isn't just any diplomat. She's the daughter of the Valerian High Council's war leader. Her presence on Earth isn't just about cultural exchange. Tom felt the world shift beneath his feet. What is it about? Zephyra moved to stand beside Kira, her armored hand resting gently on his stepsister's shoulder. I am here to negotiate a military alliance between our species. Military alliance? Tom's engineering mind immediately began calculating implications. Against who? The hegemony, Zephyra said quietly. A collective of species that views both humans and Valerians as threats to galactic stability. They have been systematically eliminating smaller civilizations, absorbing their technology and resources. Kira pulled up a holographic display from her research tablet showing star maps with disturbing patterns. They've taken 12 systems in the past year. Earth is next on their expansion route, followed by the Valerian homeworld. And some people don't want the alliance, Tom said, pieces falling into place. Extremist factions on both sides, Zephyra confirmed. Humans who believe we should face the threat alone. Valerians who consider your species too primitive to be useful allies. They've been sabotaging the negotiations, Kira added. 3 previous diplomatic meetings have ended in attacks that were blamed on the other. Tom stared at the woman who'd shared his bed, seeing her with completely new eyes. Not just an alien seeking shelter, but a warrior diplomat carrying the weight of 2 civilizations on her shoulders. That's why the proximity bonding, he realized. You weren't just following custom, you were making sure I'd protect you. Safar's expression cracked, showing vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. Initially, yes, Tom. What developed between us? That was never part of the plan. Before Tom could respond, every alarm in his improvised security system began screaming. Through his workshop cameras, he could see figures in black tactical gear moving through the building's lower levels. They found us, Kira whispered. Zephyrus. Armor expanded to cover her entire body, transforming her into something that looked both elegant and deadly. Tom, can your defenses hold them? For maybe 10 minutes, Tom estimated, his mind racing through possible escape routes and defensive positions. After that, we need another plan. The alliance negotiations are scheduled for tonight, Zephyra said. If I can reach the meeting site, if I can make the human delegates understand what we're truly facing. You'll never make it through the city with those assassins hunting you, Kira protested. Tom was already moving, gathering equipment and tools with practiced efficiency. Yes, she will, because she won't be going alone. Both women stared at him. Zephyra spoke first. Tom, this is not your fight. Like hell it isn't, he replied, surprised by the fierceness in his own voice. You said it yourself. This is about survival. Human survival, which makes it very much my fight. He pulled on his work jacket and grabbed his toolkit, mind already formulating plans. Besides, those proximity bonds work both ways, don't they? I can feel your emotions, your determination. You're not just protecting your people, you're protecting mine. Zephyra's glowing eyes widened. You can sense the bond. I can sense you, Tom said simply. Your fear, your hope, your feelings for me. The moment stretched between them, charged with implications neither had expected. Kira cleared her throat awkwardly. This is touching, really, but we have armed killers coming up the stairs. Tom's security alarms intensified as the attackers breached his first defensive line. Kira, emergency exit through the maintenance shaft. You know the route to the transit station? What about you? Tom looked at Zephyra, at the fierce intelligence behind her alien beauty, at the way she carried herself like a warrior born. We're taking the direct approach. Tom, Harrison, Zephyra said formally, Are you certain you wish to bond your fate to mine in this matter? He thought about his quiet life, his simple problems, his comfortable routine. Then he thought about the warmth he'd felt sleeping beside her. It's the way she'd looked at him when he'd offered protection. The electricity that seemed to arc between them whenever they touched. I'm certain, he said. Zephyra reached up and touched his face with her armored hand. The material somehow warmed despite its metallic appearance. Then we faced this together, as bonded pairs should. The kiss that followed was brief but intense, charged with the energy Tom had been feeling since she'd entered his life. When they broke apart, he felt something fundamental click into place, like finding the missing component that made a complex machine finally work. Now, Zephyra said, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated in his bones. Let us show these assassins what happens when they threaten a bonded pair. Tom's workshop door exploded inward just as they finished their preparations. The attackers wore full combat armor and moved with military precision. They hadn't expected to face a Valerian warrior backed by human ingenuity. The battle was brief and intense. Zephora moved like liquid lightning, her armor adapting to deflect weapons' fire, while she struck with lethal precision. Tom found himself anticipating her movements, covering her flanks with improvised electromagnetic pulses and force barriers that confused and disoriented their attackers. They fight as one unit. One of the assassins reported into his cum device before Zephora's weapon reduced it to sparking fragments. Within minutes, the attackers were either unconscious or retreating. Tom stood in his destroyed workshop, amazed to find himself not only alive but exhilarated. "Is this what bonding feels like for Valerians?" he asked breathlessly. Zephora removed her helmet, her hair spilling out in silver waves, her eyes bright with shared victory. "It is what bonding feels like when it is true," she said softly. They had 3 hours to reach the alliance negotiations. 3 hours to convince two species to work together against an existential threat. 3 hours to prevent a war that would destroy everything they'd both grown to love. Ready for the most important engineering project of your life? Zephora asked. Tom pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite their species differences. This is a part 1 of the story, and